is as surprising as it is intriguing. This is where the unexpected meets the everyday, drawing you into a moment that no one saw coming. Today, we take you inside an incident that has everyone talking, Kaley Cuoco's unplanned reveal, a moment that left both fans and critics in shock. As you settle in, make sure to watch until the very last second because every detail in this story has been carefully chosen to show you a side of Kaley that is raw, real, and truly unforgettable. We break down the incident from every angle, what happened, how it played out, and how it has affected Kaley's public image and personal life. Known for her radiant charm and effortless grace, Kaley suddenly found herself in an unplanned situation, one that caught her completely off guard yet became a defining moment in her career. We take you through the build-up, setting the scene for how even the most careful stars can sometimes end up in the spotlight for reasons they never expected. With a clear and engaging narrative, we guide you through every detail, the time, the place, and the exact circumstances that led to this unexpected reveal. As you listen, you'll feel like you're right there in the moment with her, experiencing the shock and composure that only a true professional can exhibit in the face of an unforeseen situation. But this story isn't just about one incident, it's about resilience and the human side of fame. We discuss how Kaley handled the moment with grace and humor, turning what could have been an embarrassing mishap into a lesson about confidence and authenticity. You'll also hear first-hand accounts from those who were there, sharing their thoughts on how she managed to stay calm under pressure. This moment wasn't just about shock value, it was a reminder that even the biggest celebrities have moments that make them feel vulnerable, just like the rest of us. As we dive deeper, we explore how this moment has sparked conversations across social media. From viral discussions to interviews where Kaley herself opened up about the experience, this incident has reshaped the way people see her, proving that even in the brightest spotlight, stars have their unfiltered, unscripted moments. Through it all, we emphasize the power of embracing who you are, imperfections and all, because sometimes the unexpected moments are the ones that make us truly unforgettable. As the story unfolds, we take you through the calm before the storm, the shocking moment itself, and the aftermath, where lessons are learned and new paths are forged. This deep dive into Kaley Cuoco's experience is a powerful reminder that the moments that catch us off guard can often teach us the most about ourselves. Now, we turn it over to you. Have you ever had an unexpected moment that turned out to be a blessing in disguise? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your stories. Before we wrap up, stick with us until the end because we have a special message waiting for you. Kaley's story has inspired you. Don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with friends, and subscribe to Hollywood Hype for more real, raw, and unforgettable moments from the world of entertainment. Your support keeps us going, bringing you the most captivating stories that prove one thing: sometimes the moments we least expect are the ones that shine the brightest.